Hello and welcome to another Sprues and Brews unboxing. Today we're looking at the Gloomspite Gitz Gitmob Army Set for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. So first of all, I want to say a massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us an early copy of the Gitmob Army Set to have a look at on the channel. In this video we're going to be having a look at what's in the box, checking out all the new miniatures, building them up, painting them so we can see what they look like in the flesh, and checking out the brand new Gloomspite Gitz Battletome too. So this is a really exciting one for me. The Gitmob, we've seen kind of glimpses of them so far in Age of Sigmar. We had Ripper Snarlfangs and the Snarlfang Riders, which kind of really leaned into that retro Goblin Wolf Rider vibe, and it looks like with all the new releases that are coming out with the Gloomspite Gitz, they're really leaning into that with chariots and doom divers and a lot of that old school stuff that we've not seen in the Gloomspite Gitz yet. Now this box is £145 and it contains the new Battletome and the new War Scroll cards, along with an assortment of new miniatures, and they are really, really nice as well. You've got the Sun Chomper, who's like the general. Well, technically the wolf is the general. He just picks up various goblins along the way as they get killed over the years. We've got a pair of Sun Stealer Wheelers, which are the new chariots, and then 2 units of 3 Snarlpack Cavalry. So they're like the Wolf Riders with 2 goblins on them each. And they look really, really fun. I'm really looking forward to doing a full kind of cavalry goblin list. I think that'd be really, really cool. And obviously that gives you quite a few different ways to build Gloomspite Gitz armies now. You can go infantry heavy, squig heavy, spider heavy, troggoth heavy, and now cav heavy, or you know, a mixture of them all if you want. So yeah, without further ado, should we crack this open and have a look what is inside? So flip this over and take the lid off and have a look what is in here. So first things first, looks like we've got the cavalry. So how are these? It looks like that is 2 sprues of 3 models, and these are really, really nice kits. You'll notice, well, all these kits have now got the Warhammer symbol as well. I think we're maybe moving away from the Games Workshop branding, and everything's now fully Warhammer branded. But yeah, these are very, very nice kits. I'm looking forward to building these guys up. I recently built some Snarlfang Riders in anticipation of this box coming up to try and practice a scheme and get them together. So at the end of the video we'll have all these painted up and see what they look like in the flesh. But yeah, very, very much looking forward to building these ones because they look really, really fun. So you get 2 sprues of them. You also get the new character as well. So the lore for this guy is quite fun. The wolf has been around for ages, and whenever the various goblins that are riding him die, it just picks up a new one. So technically the wolf is the character, which is fun. But yeah, it looks like a big old wolf on the top of this. Again, I think he's going to be another really fun one to paint up. I really like the back banner on there. These don't worship the bad moon as such, they worship the sun, because these guys are, I think they're in Heesh, and you know that on the plains with the sun beating down on them, so it's a slightly different aspect of their god that they worship. But yeah, really, really looking forward to painting this guy up because I think he's going to be lots of fun to work on. And then we get 2 Sun Stealers Wheelers. And I can just think of Steelers Wheels, the band. I'm sure that's intentional. And this looks very, very cool as well. There's not enough chariots in Age of Sigmar for my liking. Chariots are fun. And yeah, a goblin army filled with loads of chariots. And there's a couple of new character chariots coming as well, which I guess will be in the full wave once this box is released fully. But yeah, there's lots of little bits on here. And the chariot itself looks really, really cool. All those classic like totem things on the wheels that look like little suns and stuff. Lots of callbacks to old goblin stuff from the world that was. So yeah, really, really nice models. Now obviously model count is quite a low one. You've got what, 6, 7, 8, 9 models in this box, but you know, 2 of those are big chariots. Obviously you do get the Battletome and everything as well. So that is all the miniatures. Again, we'll look at those built and painted later on in the video, but we will just see what else is in the box. So obviously you've got quite a lot of bases in there for all the stuff. The chariot bases are quite small, so they're not massive models. But in here we get, if we open this up, so inside of here we get the Battletome and the War Scroll cards as well. So we'll have a proper look at all of this properly in the second half of the video. We'll just get the War Scroll cards out because this is a full set of all the War Scrolls for the entire army, which is really cool. They are the small format ones. Now personally I did prefer the bigger ones that came out as what do they call them, the index packs or whatever they were called. The kind of tarot card size now, which I don't know, I prefer the bigger cards, but these are smaller to sit on the bottom of the table alongside you know, your dice and everything out of the way. So a little bit of a smaller footprint on them. But you do get War Scrolls for everything in the book, so it's not just the stuff in the box, it is the whole lot in there, which is really cool. And then we get the full Gloomspite Gitz Battletome as well, which we'll have a look at properly in a little bit. Before we do though, we get the full instructions for the army set as well. And in here we can see how to build them. So let's have a quick flick through first before we look at the Battletome and see how these all go together. Now I think some of these kits have got quite a few little variations on them as well. So you've got some different options on how to build them, which is cool. Looks like even the head on the general, we've got a few different variations that you can pick from, so that's cool. Onto the Snarl Pack Cavalry, it looks like all the heads and bodies are interchangeable on them as well, so you've got a bit of variety on how you build them. He looks really cool, doesn't he? So yeah, they are cool, I like the banner bearer. So yeah, a few different ways you can build them, which is cool. So yeah, I think they're going to be good fun to work on, those guys. And then we've got the Sun Stealer Wheelers, and again we've got a bit of variation onto the wheels on those guys as well, and the little kind of side plates. So if you've got a unit of 2 of them, you can have you know, a bit of variation. Looks like the same for the heads for the crew as well. And it looks like you've got a few different options on how you put them together as well then, which is cool. So you could put either wolf on the left or right, again just to mix up the appearance of them, which obviously we'll do on this one because there's 2 of them to build. I do fancy quite a few units of these chariots charging across the battlefield. I think they'll look really, really good. So yeah, and then the assembly does change a little bit just based on which wolf is forward, which is quite a clever way of doing it. It just means that side by side they don't look identical, which is really good. And then it looks like they've got quite a few crew that go on the back of it as well, which is cool. So yeah, looking forward to checking that out properly. So what we're going to do now is jump ahead to the future and we'll have a look at the Gloomspite Gitz Battletome. So let's dive into the new Battletome itself and see what is new, because there's been quite a few changes for the Gloomspite Gitz. I know for some of the armies in 4th edition, there hasn't been much in the way of updates for the core mechanics and some of the war scrolls. We see some bigger changes in the Gloomspite Gitz, which obviously we'll get to in a little bit when we get to the rules. From a lore point of view, really, really nice. We've got some really great art in there, and new kind of expanded lore about the Gloomspite Gitz as well. We learn about the Glareface Frazzle Git, which is basically the sun. The Gitz here is a rival to the Bad Moon, and the Gitmob. They kind of want to try and intimidate it, to kind of diminish its light in order for the Bad Moon to kind of rule supreme, and to do that they try and absorb the light of Heesh through the various kind of gadgets and gizmos that they've got. Big like metallic pieces of you know, realm stone that absorbs the light of the sun, which they can then use for their own ends. And in their heads, by draining all that power, they're diminishing the power of the Glareface. For a rules mechanic as well, we've seen a bit, the Shaman has got a cool little rule that kind of represents that in action, where essentially he kind of channels so much of the sun's light that you can't see the other Gits around him, which is pretty cool.
So yeah, really, really nice. I really like the layout of the new 4th edition books. There's things kind of like this with little kind of like notes about creatures and kind of fictional write-ups that reminds me of the Thondia book, which I think is one of the best books that they did for Age of Sigmar. And these new battle tomes follow a similar kind of path. Yeah, really, really nice layout on them. I really, really enjoyed reading this one, and I'm already planning like half a dozen different Gloomspite armies in my head. Everything's represented, so nothing's been removed since the the ones that were removed from the faction packs. So yeah, boss on spiders and stuff, they're not on there, but there's nothing since the last wave that's been removed, which is nice. What's really cool about this book as well, you get a full like beast diary with shots of all the models and then write-ups with them as well. Mentioned this in the Warriors of Chaos review, but I really like that because it it lets you kind of like identify the model to what unit it is, and B, I much prefer the way of doing this than the old kind of miniature showcase in the middle. It kind of ties the army together, and I think it makes it easier for new starters to identify which model is which. So yeah, really, really cool. I do want to do a squig herd as well at some point. There's lots of cool ideas that I've got kind of toying around. I think the first thing I'm going to do is get the Gitmob up to 2,000 points. We'll see those at the end of the video, the ones that I painted up for that. But yeah, there's some really fun stuff in here. We get all the lore for the new Gitmob stuff as well. So Drogs to Sunjumper's cool. Essentially, there's been multiple Drogs, and the wolf picks a new kind of goblin to sit on top of him, which is really cool. Snarl Boss and Wolf get revenue. So Ripper's Snarlfangs are back as a new unit. We'll see that later on in the book. But essentially it's a new HQ option and his 2 bodyguards, which is pretty cool. And we then get a few models that aren't out yet. They're probably going to be in the second wave of releases, which is normally a couple of months after the kind of launch box comes out. But in the past, like for the Deathcore of Krieg, we've seen the stuff come out, a couple of weeks after. So yeah, it could well be that these aren't too far away, hopefully. So yeah, the Snarl Boss and the Frazzlegate Shaman. This looks like it's going to be a dual kit, but I'm not entirely sure. It might be 2 separate boxes. The Doom Diver, really, really excited to get my hands on. That looks an amazing kit, and looking at the images in here, there's a few different ways of building it as well. You can have the guy launching off or kind of attached to the platform. So that's a really fun one. The Sunstealer Wheelers, we'll see in a bit, as we will with the Snarl Cavalry. But yeah, I think a full army of these is going to look really, really cool on the table. I'm looking forward to having this big mounted war rolling over the deserts. Should be really, really fun. So yeah, I much prefer this kind of layout than the old miniatures kind of galleries. I think it shows off the models better and lets you kind of like tie the lore to them a little bit better too. But I imagine the thing that most people want to see in here are the rules. Like I said earlier, quite a few of the books so far haven't had massive shifts in how the rules work. For the Gloomspite Gitz, the battle traits have changed quite a bit. I mean, mechanically, it's still the same idea that your different units will get different buffs based on the the unit that they are. Previously, you had the Bad Moon drifting over the table, and the quarter of the board that they were in illuminated it, and depending on what units you had in that quarter, they had different bonuses. This has changed quite a bit now to the faces of the Bad Moon. So it's more like the old Nurgle one with the wheel that you turned round based on the battle round. This represents the various faces of the Bad Moon. It can be grinning, scowling, sulking, or cackling. And basically, depending on which of those is showing, different units will get different buffs. So if it's grinning or scowling, Troggoths get a buff. If it's sulking or scowling, Squigs get a buff. If it's cackling or sulking, Gitmob get a buff. And if it's cackling or grinning, non-Squig Moon Clan and Spiderfang get a buff. those are the buffs that they get are mostly in line with what we had previously, but they have been improved in some ways. So Frothing Zealots now adds 5 to the control scores of non-squig units. Spiderfang Venom's the same. Your critical hits go off on a 5+. Moonlit Hide has changed a little bit. That's now -1 rend on your Troggoth units for incoming attacks rather than improving save. So because it's reducing the rend of the enemy, you can stack that with all that defence as well to essentially get a net kind of +2 save bonus there. Lunar Squigs has changed. Previously that let you re-roll the dice to see how far the squigs moved. Now you can choose to just move them an extra 4 inches, which in most cases, I think with hoppers and stuff, means that they just move 12 inches, which is really nice. You can still try and gamble for a 5 or 6, but I think just taking that 4 inches is a much better idea. And then we get a new one, Sneaky Snarlfang. So this is for all the Gitmob stuff, and it allows them to charge and or shoot when they use a retreat ability, which is really good because they've got some really nice kind of charge abilities in the army. So the way this works, at the start of the game you pick one of the faces for it to be on, and then each battle round it will cycle through. So it means, say if you were running Gitmob and you started off in Sulkin, battle round 1 would be Sulkin, then it moved to Cackling, which means for both those battle rounds you'd get the benefit of the Gitmob ability. Then it'd move to Grinning, then Scowling, then back to Sulkin for the final battle round. So it means even without any kind of other kind of spells in play or effects, you're going to get the kind of faces that suit your army at least 3 battle rounds. Now if you've got a mixed army, you know, you've got some squigs in there, you've got some Stroggoths in there, you've got some Spiderfang, your different units will get different benefits based on how the moon is kind of moving around. So that's really cool. There's lots of ways of adjusting that and moving it too. So I really like this one compared to the old one. It gives you a bit more control over, you know that battle rounds 1, 2 and 5 are going to be your kind of like your good face of the moon. If you've picked like a sub-faction of the Gitz. And like I say, there's ways of manipulating that too. It kind of rewards a mixed army where different kind of things will get different bonuses at different points in the game. So yeah, really like that. I think that's cleaned up quite a lot, and I think that's going to be a really fun one to play with. Battle formations on the whole are the same. The Spiderfang one has been removed though and has been replaced by the Gitmob pack Git and Run. Now this is really nice. They get a new kind of move retreat action where units that are in combat get to roll a d3, and on a 2+ they do that many mortal wounds, and then they get to move. It is a retreat, so you can't charge after that, but obviously if you're under the Sulkin or the Cackling faces of the Bad Moon, your units that fall back can indeed charge. So combos really nicely with that. It's not a once per turn ability as well, so if you've got multiple units in combat, they can all do some mortal wounds, then fall back and then charge in again if you're under the face of the Bad Moon. So really like that one. I think the Gitmob are going to be quite popular because, they're all new toys as well. They've not got a lot of rend, apart from the Doom Dive, which we'll see in a bit, but stuff like that is really good for pinning down units, doing mortal wounds, falling back out again, and then going back in to do some more damage. So that's a really fun one. All the heroic traits and artifacts are the same as in the faction pack. There's no changes there. And then onto the spells. The one that was like a -1 to hit aura has been removed. I forget what it's called. Something Annoyance, I think it was called. That's now been removed from the spell lore. And instead we have got Bad Portents. This one goes off on a 6. You roll a d6. On a 1, 2, nothing happens. On a 3 to 5, the Bad Moon moves to the next face. And on a 6 you can pick which face the Bad Moon's on, which at first reading seems okay, that's a little bit unreliable. You can maybe bump it across to like the next facing, more likely than not. But then you see that it's got the unlimited keyword, so you can use, if you've got multiple casters or maybe a handy Gobblepalooza or something that can throw out a cast, you can potentially get quite a cheap spell here to keep the Bad Moon onto the facing that you want. If you maybe turns 1 or 2, you've got your right facing, then turn 3, use a couple of wizards to move this back round the other side again. You know, maybe turn 3 you don't have the facing, but then 4 and 5 you do. And if you get lucky and roll a 6 to put it on the facing that you want, you could potentially keep your army under the facing of the moon that you really want for the entire game. So I think that's a deceptively powerful one where you could do it a few times to do quite a bit of work there, which is cool. Manifestation laws are the same. It's the same endless spells. There's a few little tweaks that we'll see later on, but nothing major on them. It's really just regarding to wording of the Bad Moon mechanic. War Scrolls, we're really going to call out just ones with any changes here and the new stuff. Scragrot has changed. Again, with the Bad Moon mechanic changing a little bit, his rules have been tweaked a little bit. So once per battle, he can keep the Bad Moon in the same position. So again, like with the example we saw earlier, in combination with some of those spells, you've got quite a few tools here to keep it on the facing that you want. And don't forget that affects the entire battlefield now as well, so you don't have to worry about where your models are. Just, you know, say you've got on one of the squig friendly faces, all your squigs are affected. So that makes Scragrot really good for kind of controlling that. His Babbling Wand has changed a little bit as well. Units within 12 inches don't spend a command point to redeploy. Now that doesn't allow you to do it multiple times because you can only do each command ability once, but it does mean that it saves you command points from doing it, so that's okay. Most of the War Scrolls are the same here. There's a few little tweaks here or there. So all the squig stuff's the same apart from the Boingrot Bounders, wherever we are. So these have changed a little bit. Previously when they charged you rolled a d3, and on a 2+ you did that many mortal wounds. That's now been changed to be more similar to the boing 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 ability on the standard squig hoppers. You roll a model for each, roll a dice for each model charging, and on a 4+ you do a mortal wound. So, you know, a big unit of 5, you're probably doing on average the number of mortal wounds you got from the old boing smash ability. But with a big unit of 10, you could potentially spike high for a lot of mortal wounds here. And I think 2 units could work quite well in tandem, where the squig hoppers jump over a unit, do some mortal wounds to them, then the Boingrot Bounders go in to kind of finish them off, and then they've got a bit more kind of rend and damage to kind of finish off the unit that's left. So I think a unit of Boingrots, 10 of them, and a unit of squig hoppers kind of working in tandem will be really nice for kind of softening up the units and taking them out. So that's pretty cool. Trug has been working out a little bit. His Iron Shell Club is now Rend 3 rather than Rend 2, so he's improved quite a bit. Dankhold Troggoths have become a little bit less effective. The Shepherd of Destruction, I think previously it went off on a 3+, it now goes off on a 4+ to add 1 to the attacks of nearby Troggoths. So still a good choice, but yeah, Trug's the real winner there, getting some decent rend on his club, because rend is very hard to come by in this book, with the exception of the Doomdiver that we'll see in a little bit. All this is still the same, and then we get onto the new Gitmob stuff. So Drogs the Sunjumper, obviously he's in the box, really nice model. He's pretty good combat profile. His main interesting bit is this the Frazzle Fangs, which means that enemies within 6 inches are -1 to hit, and they can't do all-out attack as well. So that's really nice. You kind of like reduce their combat effectiveness and then make it so they can't negate that with an all-out attack as well. If things do get a bit hairy for him as well, he has got the time to Scarper rule. He can only use it once per battle, and he can use it on himself or another friendly unit within 9 inches. And then on a 4+, he can just make a 2d6 move out of combat. So, you know, if something that you think is going to probably take him out goes into him, you can just make him Scarper, which is really good. And then, similar to a lot of other kind of combat heroes, he can make a unit immediately fight after him, so he can go in with another unit and yeah, do some damage. The Frazzle Gitz Shamans, the new caster for the Gitmob. This guy's really cool. He's a level 1 wizard, so he can cast a spell. His main mechanic is Gimme All Delight, which means that any units within 6 inches, other than Frazzle Gitz Shamans, cannot be shot. So the way that's worded is so that you can't have 2 of these next to each other. The enemy can always shoot Frazzle Gitz Shamans, but they can't shoot anyone else that's nearby them. Which obviously it paints a massive target on the back of the Shaman, but it does give the rest of your army a bit of kind of protection for the rest of the game. If you can maybe stick a ward save on him with the Gobblepalooza, maybe turn 1, and then he's movement 12. All of the stuff in the Gitmob Army is very, very fast. I think your slowest unit's like 12-inch movement. Move up for an aggressive turn 1, kind of turn 1, turn 2 charge. The enemy can't shoot anyone other than the Shaman. They'll probably kill them, but if you've got 1 or 2 of them in your lines, it is going to kind of mitigate that shooting damage. If you're up against something like, I don't know, Caradron Overlords or Lumineth or something with lots of shooting, it is going to kind of like scupper their plans and limit who they can shoot at. So really, really like that. You could also kind of range them just out of range of the enemy, so they've got units within 6 inches of them in front of them. He's just hanging back a little bit just out of range of enemy shooting. He can't be shot because he's not in range, and the units in front of him can't be shot because of that rule. So really, really nice one. He's also got a cool shooting attack as well. He just picks 3 units within 9 inches of him, and then on a 2+ does D3 mortal wounds to each of those units. Really, really good. That's just a shooting attack as well. It's not a spell, so you can cast as well as that. So really like the Frazzle Gitz Shaman. 9 wounds and a 4+ save is a little bit fragile if the entire army is shooting at him. If you can get a ward save on him, you might be able to kind of get him living a little bit longer. The kind of fighty equivalent of that is the Snarl Boss on Warwheeler. This is your standard kind of like combat hero. He can make units fight immediately after him. He's also got some cool rules where in the movement phase he can move up to his movement characteristic, he can pass through enemy units, and then an enemy unit he moves through, he deals D6 mortal wounds to. So really, really cool there. And then the Gaze the Frazzle Gitz a once per battle ability, which makes it -1 to hit all Sunstealer Wheelers. There's no range on that, it's just on the whole table. And he also adds 6 to the movement of all Sunstealer Wheelers, making them a mental movement 18. So again, if you want to get some kind of easy turn 1 grabbing, battle tactics and stuff with some quick movement, he's a really good pick to take. And again, there's no kind of range limitations to that, so you can keep him safe next to your Shaman as well if you don't want him shot. We then get the Snarl Boss and the Wolfgit Retinue. This is another old Underworlds unit, given updated rules and a new profile. He's basically another kind of hero who makes Gitmob Cavalry stronger. So he adds 2 to their charge rolls, which is really, really nice. And once per turn, if this unit charged, him and up to 2 friendly Gitmob get +1 attacks on their companions' weapons, so all the wolves and stuff. So he's a really, really nice one, and he can be accompanied by Wolfgit Retinue as well, which basically give them both a ward save. So I think they're worth taking to keep him in the fight. If you've got a lot of the new cavalry units, he's a nice one to, make them better at charging and give them more attacks as well. So he is also in the Spearhead box as well. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be picking this guy up once that Spearhead comes out. We then get the Sunstealer Wheelers. These are really nice chariots. They've got a load of crew on the back of them. I think I mentioned during the unboxing that there's loads of different options you can have on them. There's about 7 or 8 different crew members, which incidentally, a little aside, means that if you bought a couple of chariots, you've probably got enough spears and bows to put together some Gitmob on foot to use as night goblins, which is always nice. So yeah, these are pretty cool. Nothing too much to write home about on the combat profile. The wolves are alright, hitting on 4s, wounded on 3s, 2 damage. Like most of the Gitmob stuff, there's no rend here, so you are kind of relying on mortal damage. Speaking of which, once per turn, one of these can move up to their movement, similar to the boss that we saw earlier, can move through enemy units, and he does D3 mortal damage to the unit they move through. And you add 1 to the amount of mortal damage for each model in the unit as well. So That's pretty good. D3 plus 1 mortal wounds for moving over stuff. D6 from the big guy. You know, that is only a once per turn ability though, so you can't kind of charge in with multiple units of chariots and get that off. But obviously there's lots of ways of kind of moving out of combat and charging again with the some of the faction rules that we've seen. So yeah, there's some fun stuff you can do there. Another model that I'm really looking forward to is the Doomdiver Catapult. Now this thing is pretty bananas, to be fair. It's an interesting one. It's a ranged weapon. It gets 4 shots at 24-inch range. It's hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 3 and 3 damage each. Now the twist for this one is you can re-roll any of those hit dice at the cost of 1 rend. So for example, if you, I don't know, you roll 4 dice, you've hit with 2 of them, you could choose to re-roll the 2 that missed. It will reduce your rend to 1, but it gives you that re-roll to try and get that extra damage through. Obviously if you're shooting at stuff with kind of low armour, you're probably going to be able to do that anyway. Combo that with a Gobblepalooza to increase the rend to 4, then you can probably afford to re-roll a dice or 2. And doing 3 damage each, you know, this thing could be quite nasty, especially if you've got a couple of them. So yeah, I think that's going to be pretty cool. And it, you know, that is in addition to the shooting that the kind of the chariots have, that the cavalry have, the fast cavalry anyway. Yeah, I think it's going to be quite fun. The Snarlpack Cavalry are the new kind of heavy cavalry for the Gitmob. It's a very similar stat line to the Snarlfang Raiders. They've just got more attacks. Again, there's no rend there though, so if you kind of your tough targets, you want to be shooting your Doomdiver catapults at, or take, you know, Trug and some Trogs to kind of smash some stuff. These increase their control by 5 on the turn they charge, and in addition, if they charge, they have strike first as well, which is really nice. That is a once per turn, but what's nice with these, you could go in with 2 units of cavalry and the main character, fight with one of these first using your strikes first rule, then fight with the character as your first pick, and then immediately use his ability to pick another unit to fight and pack with the other unit of Snarlpack Cavalry in order to fight with like 3 units on the trot. So I think that's a pretty nice one as well. So that's all the new units. Like I said, there's no changes on the rest of the stuff really. We do get a tweak on the Malevolent Moon. That's just really reworded to support the new Bad Moon mechanics. So units that are within 12 inches of it count as being under all 4 faces of the Bad Moon, so they get the benefit of all their abilities. So definitely worth casting. On that note, the Bad Moon Loon Shrine no longer counts as like a focal point for the moon. So previously nearby units counted as being under the light. That rule's gone now. It just recycles those units for 1 command point when they're dead. So really you're relying on your Malevolent Moon for kind of moon facing shenanigans. But honestly, there's enough mechanics in the army, especially if you take Scragrot, to kind of manipulate the facings. I don't think it's too much of a concern. We see the new Spearhead in here as well. This is a pretty cool one. It's basically the contents of this army set with the name character swapped out for the new Snarlboss and Wolfgit retinue. This stuff stacks quite nicely with the stuff in the launch set as well. I think off the top of my head, if you take the stuff out of this army box, a Spearhead army, and then both of the new characters, the Shaman and the Goblin on Chariot, and 2 Doomdiver catapults, and that's approximately 2,000 points. So, you know, quite easy to put together a Gitmob army. That's certainly what I'm going to be doing. It might not be the most competitive, but it's certainly going to be a lot of fun. As ever, you get a full kind of guide in here as well on how to paint these, and the full Spearhead rules for them as well. So lots of fun to be had with that. Path to Glory we've seen in all of the battle tomes for this edition, and again it's really fun. You basically pick what type of hero you want, whether it's a Grot or a Troggoth, and then you get to basically assign them what flavour they want to be as well. So, you know, you can put them on a wolf, you can put them on a chariot. There's lots of cool stuff you could do here. You know, if you wanted to, say if you still have the old boss on Giant Spider, you could still build a combat hero riding a spider and use that model. So that's really, really cool. I love stuff like this, being able to kind of tweak and put together your stuff. If you wanted an offensive combat grot on a Ragnarok spider, you can do that as well. So yeah, lots of really, really fun stuff you can do there. And yeah, I'm glad that we're getting these through the battle tomes, along with the various paths as well for your upgrades for your units as well. So yeah, we then get some armies of renown. So Drog's Gitmob is basically a fully kind of Gitmob force. Personally, I'd maybe just go with a standard Gitmob army, but there's some cool stuff in here. Basically, you can keep units off the board and then deploy them at battlefield edges during the game, which is pretty cool. You can stop the enemy from making pile-in moves. You can use free retreats and stuff. They're really kind of sneaky and able to get out of the way, which is pretty cool. So yeah, they're quite fun. We do also get the King's Gitz as well, which is more so about big units of you know, your standard goblins and the like. So if you want to go kind of like proper horde Gitz, this is one to go. You're not too limited as well, because you are allowed to take some Troggoth units as well. Their main kind of gimmick is that when they're within 9 inches of Scragrot or the Bad Moon Loon Shrine, you add 5 to the control scores, and your squigs get to have a movement value of 4 plus their movement rather than rolling a dice. So they basically get the benefits for being under the Bad Moon just for being near Scragrot or the Loon Shrine. So that's pretty cool. Something to call out here as well is that once per battle you can return a full-sized unit when you use the Loon Shrine's ability to recycle units rather than a half-sized unit as well. So if you've got some big, you know, big units of Gitz, you can just keep recycling them. So very much a horde Gitz army, which is really nice. We also get a couple of regiments of renown as well. The Shine Steel is a really nice one because it's the contents of the Spearhead box, and can be taken in Iron Jaws, Cruel Boys, Ogres and Sons of Behemat, and they again have the mechanic that we saw in that kind of sub-list, where you can leave units off the board and then kind of bring them onto the battlefield more than 9 inches away from enemy units. I think that's going to be a really, really popular one to throw into other destruction armies. And then we get Skullcrick's Loon Lads, which is a more kind of like Night Goblin themed one. And while they're set on an objective, they have anti-charge +1 rend. So a nice like defensive one. Out of the two of them, I think the Shine Steel is going to be kind of the most fun to use and effective. And yeah, I'll definitely be running some of them, maybe alongside some Sons of Behemat to give them a bit of, you know, numbers and power there. So yeah, that is a look at the new Gloomspite Gitz Battletome. Lots of fun stuff in there. But before you go, we're going to have a quick look at the new models, because I've built and painted all those up. And here's a look at the finished contents of the box. I've got to say I had loads of fun painting these up. They're quite detailed. They took me a little bit longer than I thought they would for 9 models. And I know some people will think that's quite a low kind of count of models for one of these boxes. But they all are quite big models. I mean, for a bit of a scale comparison, I've got one of the old Snarlfang cavalry here. So if we have a look at that kind of in comparison to the size of one of the new ones, they are quite a bit chunkier. Similar design to them all though, so they kind of match the aesthetic of that really, really nicely, with the 2 goblins on top. The wolves have got a bit of customization, but the goblins on top are always the same kind of pairing of goblins, which I guess makes sense. They've not got like spears sticking into each other. That does mean, however, that if you do build like a few of these, say if you bought this box and the Spearhead, you're probably going to have some duplication imposers across the army. I mean, the gorgeous models, really enjoy painting them, but I just wish there was a bit more variation to the guys on top, because as you can see down the table there, both these units kind of have the same kind of silhouette now with the weapons on top. The chariots, however, are very much the opposite of this. You get 7 or 8 different crew on the sprue. You put, and that's in addition to the guy kind of like riding it. So you can fit 2 on the back and then 1 kind of like standing, kind of hanging onto the side of it. You get enough of them to, I reckon if you had like 4 chariot kits, you could probably put together some Gitmob on foot. You know, there's an equal split of like bows and spears and stuff in there. So yeah, if people want to run kind of these guys rather than night goblins, that's definitely an option. I've seen some people do it with the crew off the Arachnarok Spider. I think it's easier with these because they are all generally standing. Even this guy here with a bit of cutting you could probably make work as well, so they're really nice. What's cool about this as well is the other chariot. You can build it, it is this one, you can build it so that either of the wheels is actually raised up off the floor and the chassis kind of like leans to one side. That piece there you can actually put on either side, so you can have some tilting to the left, some tilting to the right. Likewise the wolves, which you can probably see here, you can have different wolves on the left or the right, which makes it, again, if you've got like lots of these in your army, gives you a bit more variety. There's a different like harness piece for them as well, because it kind of leans a different way. Loads of different gubbins to put on the back as well, like barrels and torches and stuff. There's different like face plates on the side of the chariot, so there's lots and lots of customization on these. And I can see some people going for big chariot based armies, and with this kit you'll be able to put together some really fun stuff. So really impressed with them. Love those, but I think these are my favourite kind of kit out of the box. Though this guy is a close contender. So this is the new named character, and he's got a couple of head options, so you can have him with or without his helmet. His wolf is massive. Again, if we get our wolf for scale, you can see he's quite a big model. I suspect each of these kits, you get 4 kits in here, I suspect they're probably going to be out £40 each when they come out, just based on the size of the models. Maybe a bit less for this guy, but the you know, a unit of 5 Snarlfang Riders is £40, so it wouldn't surprise me if that's the price of each of these boxes when they're released individually. So I think the box is 140 off the top of my head, might be 145. Obviously you get the 4 units and the War Scroll cards and the Battletome. You do get a good discount by buying it all in one go. And again, as ever, the caveat of that is if you don't need all the stuff, you might be better waiting for the separate Battletome release, which isn't going to be that far out. But if you like the Gitmob stuff, and like I said, this combined with the Spearhead and then the other 3 new kits as they come out, gives you pretty much a 2,000 point army as well. So pretty easy to put together a force with them as well. So yeah, really impressed with this one. I'm looking forward to the rest of the releases coming, so I can build up the Gitmob army of my dreams. So yeah, over on the website, spruesandbrews.com, I have got a full write-up of the Battletome as well. We'll go into a bit more detail on some of the kind of stuff in there. So if you do rather kind of read a review rather than watch one, all the information is over on there. I'm also going to have pictures of all these models over on the site too, so you can check that out if you are into that. We've also got a review of the new Warhammer Underworlds warband as well, the Gitz one for them. Those profiles aren't in the Battletome, which is something that games are actually moving away from. I think the games are more kind of like separated out now, and it's more so the case of, you know, old discontinued ones might find a niche within a Battletome. So yeah, that is up as well, along with the Edge of the Knife Rivals deck. And again, there's a write-up of that on the website as well. If you have enjoyed this, why not give us a follow, Comment below, tell us what kind of Gloomspite Gitz army you're looking to put together. There's also an affiliate link to Element Games in the description as well. If you'd like to support the site, anything you buy through that link goes towards helping us make these videos and all the kind of running costs of the site and all that stuff. So massively appreciated if you do. But yeah, let us know what you think of the new Gloomspite Gitz. Are you planning on picking up one of these boxes and adding it to an existing force? Or are you doing what I'm doing and starting a brand new Gitmob force to charge across the desert and yeah, do all sorts of mental stuff. But yeah, until next time, have a great weekend and we'll see you soon.